we're going to turn to Israel's assassination of Hasan Nasrallah last Friday and its escalating assault on Lebanon. On Sunday alone, Israeli airstrikes killed 105 people across the country, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. Over the last year, Israeli attacks have killed 1,700 people in Lebanon, half of them in the last 2 weeks. Israel's ability to wage the pager and walkie-talkie attacks that killed dozens and injured thousands in Lebanon 2 weeks ago, then to assassinate numerous senior Hezbollah figures in quick succession, and finally Nasrallah himself, was seen as a triumph by Israel and the United States. President Joe Biden praised Nasrallah's assassination as a, quote, measure of justice, making no mention of the horrific toll of civilians killed in the Israeli attack. But for people in Lebanon, across the region, and around the world, Nasrallah's death is an immeasurable loss. They look to him as an historic anti-colonial resistance leader, an astute strategic thinker, a spiritual and moral guide, and as a person capable of instilling in them the belief that the liberation of Palestine from Zionism and the wider region from American imperialism is a reality that is within their grasp. Nasrallah led Hezbollah since 1992, assuming his role after Israel assassinated his predecessor, Abbas al-Musawi. Over 3 decades, Nasrallah built Hezbollah into a formidable political organization and military machine capable of deterring and even defeating Israel's powerful US-backed military. The Israeli shock and awe campaign of recent weeks left people in Lebanon and across the region dazed and demoralized, as Israel appeared to be gaining the upper hand after a year of military failure in Gaza. But as Israel signaled on Monday that it planned to send ground forces into Lebanon, Hezbollah has moved to restore confidence. In a televised address on Monday, Naim Qassem, the Deputy Secretary General of the Lebanese Resistance Organization, said that the Lebanese resistance group was prepared for a long fight with Israel, which it would win. Quote, "We will not waver from our true and honorable positions," Qassem said. "The Islamic resistance will continue to confront the Israeli enemy in support of Gaza and Palestine while defending Lebanon and its people." Speaking 3 days after Israel's assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the group's legendary leader of 3 decades, Qassem offered his condolences to the Lebanese people. "We lost a brother, a beloved comrade, a father, a commander," Qassem said. "We know that the battle may be long and the options are open before us." He asserted that Hezbollah is, quote, "ready if Israel decides to enter by land," and, quote, "confident that the Israeli enemy will not achieve its goals and we will emerge victorious from this battle." Joining us now to talk more about the situation in Lebanon is Roqayah Chamseddine. Roqayah is a Southern Lebanese researcher and reporter currently in Lebanon. She's also the co-host of the fantastic podcast, Delete Your Account. Welcome, Roqayah.
Thank you both for having me today. I really appreciate it. And I genuinely feel honored being on.
That's an honor to have you. What's the situation where you are right now and how are you doing?
I'm well, despite everything. Israel's still unloading as much as it can across the southern suburb, which I frequently visit. That is my second home after South Lebanon. But despite all of this, I genuinely feel that the tide is turning, and the killing of Sayyid Hassan was a pivotal moment that the entity will soon regret.
And you talk about the tide turning, Roqayah. The news coming in right now is that throughout today, Wednesday, Israel has been taking heavy casualties in the 2 villages of Marun al-Ras and Al-Adaisa in southern Lebanon. Israel has already announced 8 of its soldiers killed and 39 injured. There may well be more. And so that will probably go a long way towards, let's say, a reality check for Israel. But let's talk first about Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. He was, by all accounts, an iconic leader. But tell us why he meant so much to his supporters, as well as to people across the region. And how have people been coming to terms with his killing, his martyrdom?
Well, I was surrounded by, I was in a cafe whenever it was revealed that he was assassinated. And at first, many people shouted, "It's impossible." They would not believe it. And then that soon led to wailing. I've never seen men cry as loud as I have. One thing that really burns into my memory is a man yelling out, "Bayyimet," which means my father died. And he collapsed on the floor, and strangers were holding him up. And because of the attacks on South Lebanon, there are a lot of Southern Lebanese now throughout Beirut, and many of them were openly weeping, holding one another. So it's a testament to how much Sayyid Hassan's arrival meant to all of us. He was the first to liberate our villages. He helped liberate South Lebanon, and then, as you mentioned previously during the show, uh, defeated Israel again in 2006. He was a father figure. He was a very noble leader, and his sacrifice is a testament that the struggles of the people of Gaza are no different from ours. This is a shared path with similar sacrifices, and the blood of everyone in Gaza is intermingled with ours now, today and throughout history.
Hmm. And
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to, yeah, t Sayyid Hassan, a few months ago during this war, his mother passed away, and he gave a speech. You know, he's given a lot of his speeches are just legendary, and everyone tunes into them. Um, the speech he made on the occasion of the passing of his mother, I don't know if you heard it, Roqayah, but it was one of the most personal speeches that I had ever heard him give, where he talked about his childhood, his very modest upbringing in a community that was very um, multi-religious, multi-ethnic. This was before the Civil War. And he talked about how he thought about that as the model for the future Lebanon he wanted. Just say a bit more about his character and how people saw him. And I mean, I hate to even reference the disgusting, vile, grotesque stereotypes and dehumanizing images of him that are in Western media, but just talk about the difference between how he is seen in the region, particularly in his own country, and how he's seen in the West. With you, of course, having, like many of us, a sort of uh, an existence in both of those spheres.
Absolutely. Sayyid Hassan was, his approach to politics were very, on one hand, very soft and delicate. He was known to be charismatic and funny. There are clips going around now in light of the attacks from Iran of him laughing. Um, but at the same time, he was incredibly sharp and well focused and organized. He wanted a Lebanon that was very pluralistic, where all of us could live together, because that is the Lebanon of, really, of today. Despite everything that's happening, we've all banded together despite what Israel has unleashed upon us. And I want to reference something he said, because you talk about his speeches. One of the most monumental speeches for me was when he said, "You don't know who you're fighting today. You're fighting a people who have a faith that no one else has on the face of this earth." And Sayyid Hassan, he wasn't just a page in history. He was a path built on the unshakable principle of resistance that has helped keep not just South Lebanon free, but all of Lebanon free. Without resistance, it isn't just that South Lebanon would still be occupied. It is that we would be under the boot of the United States and America, from the south to the north and everywhere in between. And I think he is a model for someone who is principled, and yet at the same time is able to rise up much stronger than ever. From, if you look at the Hizb back whenever they first began, it was a handful of people, and now they are the most formidable group of men who are fighting on behalf of our country. And Israel, in all its cowardice and barbarity, didn't deserve a noble adversary like Sayyid Hassan.
Roqayah, you know, this happens over and over again, right? Israel and Washington clearly hope that by assassinating the head of a resistance movement, they can collapse that movement and
Right.
remove the most, formidable obstacle to Israel's subjugation of the region, as they, clearly hoped assassinating Nasrallah would do. What has been Hezbollah's response to his death? Do its supporters still have confidence in the organization after a series of really devastating blows?
So the goal of assassinating Sayyid Hassan wasn't just to further inflict psychological terror on all of us throughout Lebanon, but to decouple the northern front from Gaza and bring to fruition what Netanyahu's promise to return the settlers to the north. But since the killing of Sayyid Hassan and Fuad Shukr and Wissam al-Tawil and Mohammed Hassan Srour and all the other commanders assassinated by Israel and the US, the northern front has remained active, and the resistance operations are continuing even at this very moment to reach deeper and deeper into the entity. I mean, today the Hizb announced that it confronted an Israeli enemy infantry force that attempted to infiltrate the village of Al-Adaisa at dawn. And the village, by the way, is near the blue line, but they engaged with them, inflicted casualties, and forced them to retreat. And as a recording, there have been at least a dozen, likely more, Israeli soldiers who have been killed by Hezbollah. And that's before they've even stepped foot into South Lebanon. So these losses will continue to climb because the equation hasn't changed. Because this was the rule from Sayyid. He said from the first day that the Hizb engaged with Israel in support of Gaza, that the Lebanese front will not stop until the war on Gaza ends. And that is where it stands today. The Hizb isn't built in a way where if you kill the Secretary General, then everything else collapses. And they've actually been planning for something like this, for a devastating attack that would result in the killing of all of their commanders and their leaders. And we're watching now that no one has been shaken. Yes, we are mourning the passing. I genuinely still cannot believe that he was assassinated. It is a difficult pill to swallow, but if you read the letter that members of Hezbollah wrote in honor of Sayyid Hassan, they say, we reject humiliation and we will continue to fight. And the first engagements with Israeli forces on near the border, they dedicated it to Sayyid Hassan, Labbaik Nasrallah, we are at your service, Nasrallah. And we would say usually, like, we're doing this in service of you. Now they say, we're doing this in service of your soul. So they are very committed and nothing has changed.